tell you all that it does my heart good to see the bleachers swelled once again with Newcastle High School students. That's due in no small part to the fact that we have about 372 ninth graders. We have more ninth graders than we do have juniors and seniors combined. So they're a big class, and that's wonderful to see. This morning's program, the faculty, staff, and administration of Newcastle High School is excited to present to you. I know that you've all noticed different things hanging on the walls in your homeroom or today. The reason for those things are about to come to fruition in your minds. We're going to start off this morning by calling your attention to the numerous faculty members who are wearing t-shirts sporting the word respect. That's what today's assembly is all about, if you want to break it down to its simplest terms. So we're going to focus on that word today, and at this point in time, I'm going to call up to the microphone the Chief of Police in the city of Newcastle, Mr. Victor Cabellis, who is going to read to you a mayor's proclamation in honor of this event. Chief Cabellis.
Thank you very much, and good morning to all of you. And thanks for the wonderful introduction, John. Okay. Just 32 years ago, I sat in the same seats as you students did. And it's hard to believe that time has gone so quickly. Now I'm standing here in front of you again. Now that you basically know about how old I am, as Chief of Police, it gives me great pleasure to be here today. As law enforcement officers and you as citizens, we are in a constant battle against crimes of violence. Too often, the harsh reality of these crimes are found within our own community. However, the most effective preventative measures are organizations such as this. The importance of the family unit in providing our children with the proper role models and examples of character cannot be overstated. So without further delay, on behalf of Mayor Tim Fulkerson, who could not be here today, I am presenting you with the Mayor's Proclamation, and that proclamation reads, Mayor's Proclamation, the City of Newcastle. Families Against Violence. Celebrate Family Week, September 17th, 2000. I am proud and pleased to proclaim the week of September 17th, 2000 as Families Against Violence Week in the City of Newcastle. The purpose is to advocate nonviolence and promote peace within families. Increasing violence touches every community, and almost every family and families are joined together to express a moral voice in rejecting violence and violent solutions to problems. We will break the cycle of violence by creating a circle of families, 1 million strong in the year 2000, who can be strong and bold because we stand together and say no to violence in our homes, and yes to countering violence and promoting alternatives to violence in our communities and the world. We will pledge to respect self and others, communicate better, listen to one another, forgive others, respect nature, and act courageously. Now therefore I, Mayor Tim M. Fulkerson, proclaim the week of September 17, 2000 as Families Against Violence Week in our city, and ask all families to take the pledge against violence. Signed and sealed this 6th day of September 2000, Timothy M. Fulkerson, Mayor of the City of Newcastle.
The Chief is a big man. I hope that is a double XL, that shirt. Okay, this morning we have a number of speakers who will address you, including those who we consider to be your peers. Give them your utmost attention and respect. I am now going to introduce to you two young gentlemen who have been dynamic. Dynamic is the best word in their effort to bring this program to Newcastle Senior High School. I'm just going to call attention to them very, very quickly, and that is Mr. Joe Sorbo, who's sitting in the front here, and Dr. Bob Van Dale, who I last saw on the top and is located somewhere in. Could those gentlemen please stand up and be recognized? Okay. Mr. Joseph Sorbo will now introduce to you our guest speaker, Mr. Jim McGinnis.
Thank you, Mr. Sarandria. It's always fun to come back to Newcastle High School. Seems like I never got out of it all these years, and that's a great feeling for me. And I know it's important for you too, because this is where you will get the basis of your education for the rest of your life. This morning, we're very privileged to have with us Jim McGinnis, who has spent the last 30 years, if not more, of his life making peace. In fact, you'll find some very interesting facts about his background that might be of help to you as you move about through your career and your search to become a better person. This morning, Jim will talk to you about what it is that turned his life around and just how important peace becomes in our homes, families, and in our schools. This is day 4 of the 5 days of this week that we have devoted in our county, Lawrence County, to peacemaking efforts. Jim has spoken at various schools. In fact, he'll probably tell you that over 2,000 kids are focusing on the pledge that you see hanging in all of your classrooms and that it was on the handout that was given to you today. And before I turn everything over to Jim, I have to tell you that today was basically organized and driven through seniors and juniors and 9th and 10th graders at your school who worked in workshops this summer. So I'm very proud to know that we have kids that are thinking along those kinds of lines. Without any hesitation, Jim McGinnis. I'm really proud to be wearing this t-shirt. This is the first time that any school that I've worked with around the country, and I've worked in every state in the United States, has said, we're going to dedicate our entire student body, we're going to focus our entire curriculum, we're going to make a commitment for the long haul to stand for the positive, to stand for respect. It's also kind of nice to be in a gym. I spent many, many years as a player and as a coach on a floor like this, and it feels right. It feels right. I'm also humbled by those of you who created this respect program. It wasn't until I was 25 that I really made the commitment that you all are making right now as sophomores, juniors, and seniors. I was in the National Guard in Memphis, Tennessee. And on April 4th, 1968, a news bulletin came over the TV and radio saying that Dr. King had been killed. Immediately, I reported to the Armory because I knew my unit would be on the streets that night. That night, we were in line to get live ammunition for our rifles. The 2 guys in front of me were shaking with excitement, and their words were, tonight we're going to bag us some ends. And you all know the N-word. Later that night, curfew has been declared. I'm riding in the back of a truck, 30 other guardsmen inside that truck. We see a car parked on the street.
African American in the driver's seat. The truck stops. 5 guys jump off the truck, go over to the car, haul this guy off, pin him to the hood, search him, find nothing, spin him around, and mace him. What do I do? Do I have the courage of my convictions? I'm the only one. I'm new to Memphis. I don't know these guys in my unit. What do I do? 3 days later, after I had written a letter to the editor of the Memphis newspapers praising Dr. King as a great American, I was walking into the mess hall that night for dinner. There's a bulletin board outside the mess hall. It has a letter to the editor on it. Big red circle written around it. An N lover written across the letter. That night I was bumped, called all kinds of names. My company commander said, "You better go home tonight. I cannot guarantee your safety." I went home that night. The next day I was at the Memphis branch of the NAACP reporting what I saw. 2 weeks later I testified before the Tennessee Commission on Civil Rights. Dr. King's death turned my life around. It was there that I took my first stand. 2 months later, Robert Kennedy was killed. 12 months after that, my cousin David Darst was killed. David was one of the first resistors of the Vietnam War in this country. He was part of what was known as the Catonsville Nine that challenged the war in Vietnam. Martin, Robert, and David were killed. And it became clear to me that it was my turn to step to the plate. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I had to act. A year later, I was teaching at St. Louis University. It was still the middle of the Vietnam War, and I was becoming more and more uncomfortable about the war. And so I went to a talk. I saw this circular on the telephone pole said there's a talk on peace studies scheduled for June 4th. It was a hot Saturday morning. It was being held at a 400-seat auditorium. I went. I walked into the auditorium. The speaker was at the podium. The man to introduce him was there too. But there was nobody in the audience. And I stood at that door and I said, do I go in and sit or do I go back home? And something inside of me said, you've come this far, you better go all the way in. So I went in and sat down. I was on that side. 5 minutes later, another guy comes to the door. He looks in and sees only one guy there. He says, I'm going to sit on this side. The speaker looks out, sees one guy there, one guy there. He has to make a decision. Is it worth it for me to speak to 2 guys? He was disappointed, I know he was. But he spoke to 2 guys. And in that moment, he planted in me the idea I could start a peace studies program right here at the university where I teach. Within a month, I had 15 faculty members willing to work with me. Within 2 months, we had a curriculum that was already approved by the College of Arts and Sciences, a peace studies curriculum. And within 3 months, by the 1st of September, they gave us a grant. And I was the first director. And on September 4th, 1970, we had 42 students in our first class. Sometimes you don't have a group of 20 young people ready and willing to do the same thing that you feel like you should do. There are times when you stand alone and you have to make a decision. Do I stand for respect? Do I stand for fairness? Do I stand against violence? And And sometimes those are lonely decisions, but we dig deep to find the courage and the compassion to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. 4 years ago, our Institute for Peace and Justice in St. Louis said, "The violence in this country is overwhelming us. What can we do about it?" We knew we could not stand alone as a single institute with a staff of 5 people. We called representatives of organizations and synagogues and churches and mosques and secular agencies of all kinds concerned about violence. We called them to St. Louis, and we adopted a 5-part strategy to challenge the violence in this society. And the first step of the strategy was to come up with a pledge of nonviolence. A pledge that says, my very life, the way I act every single day, the way I act at home, the way I act in my classroom, in the halls of my school, as I'm going home, when I'm at work, when I'm in my youth groups, when I'm doing volunteer programming, the very way that I act with the others around me, that's part of the solution. I don't have to be part of the problem, I can be part of the solution. We had no idea what would happen to that pledge 4 years ago when we wrote it. Within 6 months, some teachers turned it into a school pledge. Within another year, it was in 14 different languages in 20 different countries around the world. Then it became a church pledge. Then it became a workplace pledge. Then it became a prison pledge. I work in a maximum security prison near St. Louis, and I work with a group of violent offenders that have decided to turn their lives around. And they created a prison pledge of nonviolence. 18 months ago, we got a call from an 8th grader in Virginia Beach, Virginia, Teresa Stanley. Teresa says, I want to make this pledge a junior high pledge, a middle school pledge. And she and 3 of her classmates went classroom to classroom to classroom. Now they're in their 3rd year. This was 2 weeks after Littleton, Colorado. This was 2 weeks after those young people were killed. Teresa rose to the occasion and said, we can do better. Now in her middle school and now in the high school in Virginia Beach, Teresa Stanley leads kids to around the youth pledge of nonviolence. Last year in St. Louis, the African American students who were at prep decided that they wanted to stand against violence. And they asked me to help train them to work in the grade schools. We're in our 2nd year now. This is a group of 20 young brothers and sisters who have said, we can teach this pledge to grade school kids. Last January in Beaver, Pennsylvania, I was called in to train another group of high school kids who were going to create a peace camp, an after-school program for the grade school kids in the Beaver school system. 35 high school students in Beaver, Pennsylvania are now teaching the Pledge of Nonviolence to the elementary students in the Beaver school system. Last year, Missouri Eastern Correctional Center became the first prison in the United States to say, there's a core group of us. It wasn't the administration. It wasn't the parole officers. It was the inmates themselves there for crimes like murder, armed criminal action, and rape. These men said, we've got to turn our lives around. I am privileged to work 2 days a week with these men, to have them put their pledge of nonviolence into practice. And today, it's Newcastle, Pennsylvania. You all will create a program in this school, and I know it. I know it. You got the critical mass. You got the brotherhood and the sisterhood to pull it off. You will become the model school in the United States. And we will take the description of your program and we will add it to the kit that we create and we revise every year now. Because we show the rest of the country the models of schools that put this thing into practice. You will become the prime model in our kit for the year 2001. And I challenge you to do a great job because you're not just doing it for yourselves. You're doing it for the entire country. You're going to do it for the entire country. What you do here will touch the lives of millions of other high school kids over the next decade. Do it well. Do it well. The Youth Pledge of Nonviolence starts with respect, and it ends with respect. Respect for self, respect for others, self-respect. Be the best that you are. Don't waste your life. No to all those things you know you should say no to. And yes to all the things that you know are the right thing to do. Respect others. Zero tolerance for fag. Zero tolerance for fag. Let that word drop out of the vocabulary of every young man and woman in this auditorium at this moment in time. We disrespect people when we call them any name. The high school kids that I work with at Cardinal Ritter, they got a great activity that they use with the grade school kids to help these grade school kids see the impact of the words they hurl at one another. Each grade school kid takes a rock and writes the worst word that they've ever hurled at somebody else. And it's amazing that FAG appears on about 33% of those rocks. We have a silhouette on a piece of newsprint against the wall. These kids line up 15 feet from the newsprint, a foul shot. But they don't shoot foul shots. They hurl their rocks as hard as they can at that piece of newsprint. And you know what the newsprint says? There's a silhouette of a human being. And on the newsprint it says this: hit me, I'm different. Hit me, I'm different. Let's not hit anybody with our words. And let's eliminate those words that put people down. I challenge you to that right now. I challenge every one of you to that right now. Drop that word and any other word that disrespects people. Secondly, I challenge you to turn your face into an instrument of respect and your voice. I said good morning to about 50 people this morning. And about 48 of you said good morning back. I'd like to see it 50 of 50. I'd like to see any time you pass somebody in the hall, I'd like you to respect that person. Affirm that person with your eyes. Don't look down, look them in the eyes. If you don't want to use a word, use your smile. But say good morning. Say have a good one. I work in an office building, 50% white, 50% black. We have an elevator at 5 floors. Nobody gets on that elevator and stays quiet. We ask each other, how's it going? When you leave the elevator, you get a, have a good one today. There's a smile. There's a new spirit at 4144 Lindell in the professional office building. Because the men and women who work there have said, we can show respect just by the way that we greet each other. Respect for self, respect for others. And respect for everybody's gifts. This is a basketball court, and I was a big shot in high school because I could play the game well. But the art students at our high school were just as good at art as I was at basketball. And basketball is no more important than art. Football is no more important than the school paper. Baseball is no more important than the volunteer work that some of you do after school. Everybody counts. Every activity is important, and nobody's better than anybody else. Let's put away the arrogance sometimes that we athletes carry with us. Let's put away that arrogance, and let's respect the gifts of everybody. That's just respecting self and others. We respect people by listening. The third part of the pledge is to listen. And it says to consider other people's feelings and needs as important as my own. Guys, Guys, when we date these young women, let's respect them. Their feelings and their needs are just as important as ours. They owe us nothing for taking them out. They owe us nothing for taking them out. We are not in charge. It's a mutual relationship. Any relationship should be a mutual relationship. If you think you're in charge, that's violence. That's disrespect. It's a mutual relationship. And I challenge the guys in this room right now. These women are your equals. What they want to do is as important as what you want to do. And they're a whole person just as you are a whole person. See the whole person. Respect the whole person. Respect goes beyond that. It goes to the environment. The fifth part of the pledge, respect nature. Chief Luther Standing Bear, not Police Chief Luther Standing Bear, but Oglala Sioux Chief Luther Standing Bear said about 150 years ago, lack of respect for growing living things soon leads to lack of respect for humans, too. Lack of respect for little critters soon leads to lack of respect for big critters. What we do to small animals, we may do to people who are weaker physically than we are. Take care of the environment. Be sensitive to small life. Care and don't trample on fragile plant life. It's a laboratory for respect, because how we respect the environment reflects how we will respect humans. 4, respect says to respect, to play sports respectfully. 6th part of the pledge. Respect your opponents. There's no place for trash talk. There's no place for trash talk. The prison that I work in, 2 of the facilitators in our program, Kelvin and Mez. Kelvin and Mez are the best guard tandem in the prison. They play basketball in the prison like there's nothing else to do. And Kelvin told me last year, he says, if you want to see trash talk, you think the NBA has trash talk? He said, you want to see the way we play basketball in the prison. Well, Kelvin decided, and Mez decided, that if they were going to embrace the prison pledge of nonviolence, they could not play basketball the way they used to play it. It doesn't mean that you can't come down with a rebound with your elbows out to clear anybody off your back. But it does mean end the trash talk and do not hurt anyone intentionally. That's how they understand to play nonviolently, to show good sportsmanship, including do not hurt anyone intentionally. No trash talk. Well, if these guys in prison who are bound almost to a macho code, if they can say we can play the game differently, still play hard, still excel, you guys can too, and you women can too. Respect your opponents. No trash talk. And lastly, show courage. Be courageous in the face of anyone who is being disrespected. Anyone on this campus being called a fag. Anyone on this campus being pushed around. Anyone on this campus being belittled for any number of reasons. Anyone on this campus being said, you don't hang with us. Stand with that person. Stand against the hate. Stand against the exclusion. Stand against the disrespect. Hate violence is increasing in our society. Young people get it on the website. They can form chat groups with others who live and breathe hate violence. And it's expanding. And it happens because of people's sexual orientation, generally, or their race. Stand against hate violence in all its form and be courageous. When I was in high school, I remember one thing. And I was asking the chief, and I was asking your principal, and Mr. Sarbo, can I tell you this one thing? There's only one sentence that I remember from my high school career, which ended in 1960. And that was a story that this teacher told us. He said there was this soldier in World War II who was stationed in Italy. And he and his company were working their way through a mountain area in Italy, and they saw this statue. It was a statue that had no hands. It turned out to be it was a statue of Jesus. And the soldier went over to that statue, and he sat there with the statue, and he saw the statue without any hand. And it dawned on him what that statue was telling him. What that statue told him was, I have no hands but yours. And one of my high school teachers told us that story, and he looked at me, and he looked at the other 30 kids in this class, and he said, young men and women, God has no hands but yours. God has no hands but yours. And I remember that 40 years ago. I still remember that. The creator of this world has no hands in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, but yours. On this campus, our creator has no hands but yours. Use them with respect. Use your face with respect, and use your words with respect, and dedicate your life to making this place the model that it can be for the entire country. It's a tremendous privilege, and I mean that. I've never said this. I've never spoken to a full high school assembly before that's going to do what you're going to do. It is a tremendous privilege for me to look out and see each of you, and you're at different places, and I know it, but to see you and to sense that you all are going to make this place the model for the United States. And I want to support you in that, and I want to thank you for that. On behalf of Newcastle Senior High School's staff, administration, and students, Mr. McGinnis, from the bottom of my heart for an inspiring talk that all of us needed to hear and all of us need to live by. You don't know this, but this high school is respected and renowned athletically nationwide. And it's respected and renowned for its past academically nationwide. And what our goal has become as a staff and administration is to keep the legacy of Newcastle High School going, not just on the playing fields, not just in the classroom, but to have a more profound effect. And I thank you for putting together the program that's going to be a vehicle for us to achieve that. At this time, I'm going to have your peers present to you what the Respect Task Force is all about. The program that you were given in homeroom today, on the third page of that program, you can follow along with the rhetoric of your students. I'm going to call Mr. Sarbo up once again, and he'll introduce the different members of your Respect Task Force. Incidentally, we're going to have these T-shirts on sale. We'll talk more about that at a later date, but we're going to have these on sale, and we'll have different days throughout the year where we'd like to get the entire student body wearing them. Okay.
Hey, thanks, John.
Okay, I know you're probably wondering, what is it that we're going to do? And That's what we're going to tell you about today. Basically, it's very simple. And the key word is respect. And as you heard Mr. McGinnis say, and as all of you know, if you respect yourself, there are a lot of things that you just wouldn't do to yourself or to others. And so during this past summer, in some activities that we were involved in, we began to talk about how things could be. And that's what we decided to focus on this first semester of this year, how we would like our high school to be. And so before we could even approach you this morning, we had to present this information to the faculty. And so the 14 or 15 people that you see here, you will see in a few minutes, that are going to talk to you, before they even could address you, they had to address the faculty members. They did put together a PowerPoint presentation, and it took quite a bit of courage to present the ideas that they're going to talk to you about to the faculty members. When they did do that, we got such an overwhelming response from the faculty that it gave everybody the courage to go on and do a little bit more. So I'll begin by introducing Justin. He's going to tell you exactly what the Respect Task Force is. And then he can introduce the next person there. Justin Crunkleton.
My name is Justin Crunkleton. I'm a senior at this high school. Basically, we're students who want to make a difference in the school and the community. And we label ourselves as a task force, not a club, because we don't want to exclude anybody. We want to welcome anybody into the group. And I'll begin just by introducing all the members of the group, and they'll give you some more information. Chantal Bethune, Kaylee Davies, Tyree Watkins, Genevieve Uzamir, Nakia Davis, Ed Coe, Stan Maguziak, Julian Crunkleton, and Jayla Fish, Allison Brown, Jessica Cox, and Ariel Anderson. Now I'll introduce Chantal Bethune, and she'll explain how our group got started.
Good morning. I'd like to talk to you about how we originated. During the summer, some of us signed up for a reading mentor workshop, conflict resolution workshop, or puppet workshop. The workshops were sponsored by Lawrence County Cares, DAX, and the Peace Center at Westminster College. After spending some time together, we decided we wanted to do something positive for our school and our community. I'm Kaylee Davies. Okay. And I'm here this morning to tell you what we want to do as a Respect Task Force and what we want to get into the school. We want to help you as the students understand the many meanings of respect. Respect doesn't just mean respect for a certain group of people. It means respect for yourself, your peers, your teachers, your parents, everybody you know. To do this, we will provide opportunities for students to grow personally, educationally, and socially. Personally means you have to have respect for yourself before you have respect for anything else. If you don't have respect for yourself, how are you going to respect anybody else? You have to have respect for education. Where will you get in life without an education? What kind of future will you have? You can't. You have to respect everything. And socially, this is easier for everyone to understand. Respect the students you're around, respect the teachers, respect everybody. And we want to encourage students to take a more active role in their classroom and in our community by volunteering their time and talents. Over the summer, we woke up early to go to the school and to volunteer our time to try and make a difference. A lot of people look down on Newcastle. A lot of people don't think there's any respect here. But there is. We just have to give it a little boost. So now I'm going to turn the microphone over to Tyree.
Hi, my name is Tyree Watkins, and I'm a junior here at Newcastle High School. And what I'll be talking to you about is how will our Respect Initiative be done and how we'll be able to do this. We would like to do this through use of the morning announcements and guest speakers, school assemblies like this one. We just want to make the student body aware of our Respect Initiative. We just want to model respect. We want everybody to respect each other, because if we respect ourselves and everyone else, then there's no room for violence and disrespect. We'll also be using bulletin board messages. Anybody can take part in this respect thing. It's not a club like the other one said before. It's not a club or just a clique where a certain group's here, a certain group is here. Anybody can just take part in the Respect Initiative. This is our school. We need to stand up and take a stand and model respect. We need to show all the other schools, locally, state, and national, that we can stand up and that we know how to act. We know how to act when we go places. We know how to act within our school, so that we can just show them and be a light to them and teach them that respect is the best way and it's the key to success. We also you may have seen in your classrooms, the Youth Pledge of Nonviolence. That is something that we incorporated into this Respect Initiative, just to let you know that that respect is the best thing to do, and just get involved with it. You might not totally understand right now what it is, but you see us us that are doing this in classes, in the hallway. If you don't understand completely what we're trying to do, you can talk to us. We'll explain it to you the best that we can, so that you can get involved in this. I just thank you for your time, and I ask that you take part in this, and you'll be happy that you did. Thank you.
I'm Genevieve Bezeman, and I'm a sophomore at Newcastle High School. Teachers can really support our Respect Initiative by modeling respect, supporting our efforts to invite students, staff, and administration to work toward making our school the best that it can be. Volunteering to meet with us to discuss some of our ideas and projects, serving on a steering/coordinating committee, and posting the Nonviolence Pledge in the classroom. And we'd really like to thank all the teachers for the support that we've gotten. It shows in all the t-shirts that you're wearing and the pledges in the classroom. And we'd just like to thank you.
Hi, my name is Nakia Davis. I'm a sophomore at Newcastle High School. You as students can really show your support of the Respect Initiative by modeling respect, supporting our efforts to invite students, staff, and administration to working toward making our school the best that it can be, taking school and their schoolwork more seriously, volunteering their time and talents to make our school the best it can be, and being aware of the following the Nonviolence Pledge. Thank you.
I'm Ed Coe. I'm here to tell you that we have a plan. A lot of people have asked us recently, they said, do you have a plan of what you're doing? We've told them that, yeah, we have a plan. We want to get community support, teacher support from students, anybody we can who help us, who will support our initiative. We asked for teacher support. We went in front and spoke in front of the teachers during their meetings before school started.
as you see, they're wearing the shirts to support us because they know that we're doing a good cause and it will help the student body. We're asking for your support to help us. We're asking you to take the challenge to respect others, to respect yourself, and respect nature. We don't want you just to listen to this today and just walk out of here not thinking about it. We want you to take the challenge and respect everybody else like Mr. McGinnis said. We're going to try to generate some interest. We have the t-shirts, like Mr. Strander said, we'll be selling later in the year. We're going to put announcements on the TV. We have a bulletin board in the front hall, if you'd like to look at that. This week we're focusing special attention on the Family Week of Nonviolence. Mr. McGinnis is here speaking throughout the county and the communities. And he's having a workshop to stop the violence in families, friends, between everybody. The last thing we'd like to do is the announcements and the publicity campaign. This is one of our campaigns. We'd like to do other things throughout the year to try to gain your support and gain your interest. So thank you. Now I'd like to turn it over to Jayla to tell you about the pledge.
Good morning. My name is Jayla Fish, and I am a senior here at Newcastle High School. If you can you please turn to the final page where the Student Pledge of Nonviolence is posted. If some of you noticed, most of these pledges are posted in some of the classrooms, and we encourage you, if you also read this here and read them in the classrooms. And we have repeated this with some of the speakers, and it's said in the proclamation of the mayor, and repetition is the key. The more you read, the more you know, and the more you understand. The first one is to respect self and others. It's practically the golden rule. To respect yourself, to affirm others, and to avoid uncaring criticism, hateful words, physical or emotional attacks, negative peer pressure, and self-destructive behavior, including abuse of alcohol and drugs. The second one, to communicate better. If you have a problem, don't be afraid to talk about it. If you're saying that you can't stand one certain person, you can't stand this other person, talk to somebody. Talk to the guidance counselor, talk to the principal, talk to one of your closest friends, instead of holding a big giant grudge on somebody and trying to think of some kind of way to retaliate on this person. I mean, to share your feelings honestly, to look for safe ways to express your anger and other emotions, to work at solving problems peacefully, and to encourage an open system of communication throughout the school. To listen carefully to one another, especially those who disagree with me, and consider others' feelings as valid as my own. That's another means of communication. If you are the person that is listening to this person's wants and needs of their problems, you have to be that listening end. You can't go through one ear and out the other and say, okay, give them a pat on the back and move on. You have to encourage that person so they can change their ways and it make them a whole lot happier. To forgive. To apologize and make amends when I have hurt another. To forgive others and to keep from holding grudges. And a lot of people, including myself, can't hold grudges. Holding grudges is not good. That's one less friend you lose if you keep that up. So if you have a problem with a person and you apologize to them or they apologize to you, forgive them, because your friends are one of the priceless things you can ever have, especially in your high school year. To respect nature, to treat the environment and all living things with respect and care, and to promote environmental concern in the school. That means, a lot of us that litter around the school or smoke across the street, and they stress most of the students many times not to do it because that's the neighbor's grounds and not the school's, and people still do it anyway. So that's another example of respecting nature around the school and around our community. To respect nonviolently, to select activities and entertainment that strengthen my commitment to nonviolence and that promotes less violent society, and to avoid social activities that make violence look exciting, funny, or acceptable. That's pretty hard for most people because people like to play laser tag or paintball, like myself, and violence, make it as like a fun entertainment type of thing, and like the video games like Final Fantasy and Parasite Eve and all that other stuff. It's just try to refrain from most things like that. Just don't use it as a jokingly thing. To act courageously. To actively challenge violence in all of its forms whenever I encounter it. Whenever at home, at school, at work, or in the community. And to stand with others who are treated unfairly, even if it means standing alone. And that was one of the things that this Respect Task Force, we had to fight for. We were very nervous about this. I mean, the t-shirt idea and everything, we were actually nervous about what the kids were going to think. Some of us got that idea, got from some of the students saying it's stupid, we don't like to work with the shirts, and all that other stuff. And we just actually stood. Here we are. We're standing here, we're presenting this to you, we're wearing our shirts, and so are the faculty. And we just want to let you guys know that this is not stupid. And most of you students have respect, and you guys know that this isn't stupid. And I'm myself, along with almost 20 of these students here and the faculty, know that you guys can do this. We're all mature. We're all in high school. And we can all carry this out because we have to do this in college also. And I thank you for your attention, and you all have a great day at school. Thank you.
Hopefully the message you've gotten today will help you remember always to respect your peers, your teachers, your school, and most importantly, help you to respect yourself. Thank you for being a great audience.
Okay, in closing, I want to let you know that tomorrow I will be on the PA system and televisions in your room, and you will all be furnished with a miniature copy of the pledge that will be distributed in your homerooms tomorrow, and we're going to sign those. Now, this is a voluntary thing. If you feel in your heart like you believe in the things that are listed on this page, and we want you to sign in the space provided, and we're going to make them small enough so you can fit them right in your planners. There's a pocket in your planner to insert it in. And it'll be interesting to see how many of you, as Mr. McGinnis said, can stand up and say, yes, I do believe in this, and I'm going to sign it. Now, I'm aware that the juniors and seniors, by and large, will not be here tomorrow due to college fairs, so on Monday, we will have a special announcement for them to do the same thing. We certainly won't leave you out in that regard. Now, about behavior in general. There's one thing I was going to put an announcement on for today, but since you're all here with me, faculty and students, this is a great time to do it. Last school year was one of the best school years I've had in 21 years as an educator because we accomplished greatly. And we went the entire school year last year, believe it or not, without one individual infringing upon the rights of others by doing something, let's say, like pulling a fire alarm. Disrespectful. Dangerous. In more ways than you could ever imagine. Now, we know who the individual is, and you're going to be hearing about the consequences. We talked about respect. Have respect for everyone. Do not touch the fire alarm unless there is a fire. Okay? Does everybody understand that? It doesn't get you out of anything other than losing valuable time for you. Okay? So I would be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to tell you that. It's a shame I have to address over 1,000 people to speak about the actions of one, because that's what it was. Anyway, I want to commend you on your behavior today in today's assembly. And let me tell you that I will not hesitate to have assemblies similar to this, and we will have a number more pep rallies and things of that nature, because your behavior, your attention, your respect today was excellent. Way to go. Okay, what we're going to do right now is dismiss. Thank you. We're going to dismiss the left-hand portion